Hello, my dear children. Myself Madhumita Banerjee, and I welcome you to your Jataka story class. Today is Friday, 7 January, and you are going to read the last part of the story, Sage Dog and the King. Let's once again recall what we have already read in the story. In the city of Varanasi, the Bodhisattva was born as a dog this time. And in the palace of Varanasi, there were many dogs. Those dogs once came out secretly of the palace and then they eaten up the leather strap of the chariot, of the king's chariot. And when the king came to know about it, he became furious. He ordered death penalty for the dogs. Okay? And the dogs, all the dogs, they became very afraid. Those who are living outside the palace, okay, not the dogs belonging to the palace. So these dogs, they became very afraid. They went to the sage dog to save them. The sage dog then decided that he will have to meet the king, and that then he started running to meet the king. He decided to meet the king and he will be meeting the king in the palace, no? So he started running. Now let's see what is there and we'll be reading out the next part. Sage Dog's power had a tremendous impact on others. Although he was a dog, no one could catch, hit or stop him from entering the palace. He went straight to the king and sat under his throne. Some ministers got up to pull the dog out, but the king stopped them. After catching his breath, Sage Dog came out and stood in front of the king with reverence. Reverence means respect. Politely but boldly he asked, "Have you ordered your staff to kill all the dogs of Varanasi?" "Yes, of course," said the king in an authoritative tone. Sage Dog asked another question. "May I know their offense?" "Well, the offense is very serious. Some of them have eaten up the reins and straps of my chariot. How dare they do this?" The king's anger was apparent in his voice. "Do you know who have eaten them?" asked Sage Dog. The king shook his head in negative. He paused for a moment and hastened to say, "Whoever they may be, one thing is certain. Some dogs have eaten up the leather of my chariot, so they have to die. That's it." This means that each and every dog of Varanasi will be killed. Or are there some dogs that will not be killed? Asked Sage Dog. "Yes," said the king. "My royal and handsome palace dogs definitely will not be killed." The king obviously wanted to protect his personal dogs. Sage Dog reminded the king about his duty. The king should be impartial. "How can you be kind to your dogs and cruel to the weak ones? Your own people all over the kingdom will lose respect for you if you show such partiality. You are going against the king's code of conduct." The king found Sage Dog's words quite convincing. After a minute's silence, he addressed Sage Dog with reverence. "Do you know who could have eaten the reins and straps?" "Yes, they have been eaten by your dogs," said Sage Dog with confidence. "You can't have such a charge. You will have to prove it," demanded the king. "I can definitely prove it," said Sage Dog without any hesitation. "Get your dogs here and also bring me some churned curd and a bunch of green grass." Everything was brought and placed in front of Sage Dog. He mixed grass with churned curd and made the king's dogs drink all of it. The dogs began to lick the stuff from the bowls kept in front of them, always staring at them without a blink. Their breath seemed to have stopped for a while. Well, as soon as the dogs emptied the bowls, they began to vomit violently. And what came out? Un- Undigested leather of the reins and straps. All the onlookers were shocked. The king was extremely pleased with Sage Dog. He had saved him from committing a crime. He had also enlightened him about impartial conduct and this duty towards all in his kingdom. The king realized that this was no ordinary dog. He made Sage Dog sit on a throne equal to his own and garlanded him with reverence. Sage Dog blessed him and left. I hope you understood the story and you liked the story. Now, what is the moral of the story? The moral is knowledge is power. The sage dog was having tremendous knowledge, and that's why he was able to solve the problem. Right? This much. Thank you all.